Right, so I thought today I would show you how to sequence some common bodhran patterns, and we're going to do that in Reaper, and we're using our plugin Modern Bodhran. So this is the UI, this is running inside our Rhapsody player, and if we go up here to the top, click on the name up here, it brings up the preset browser, and we have 4 different bodhrans in this library. And they're all modern bodhrans in the sense that they're not really old antique instruments or anything like that. All of them are high quality instruments constructed in the last 20 years or so. And the samples were recorded in a studio environment, so you get a more modern contemporary sound, but it's still the same traditional bodhran instrument. Okay, so we've got a 16-inch one. This has a sort of deeper sound. 14-inch, slightly less deep sound. We'll go with a 13-inch. So we've got 2 of these actually. Let's go with the first 13-inch one. So this drum is 13-inch, so it's a smaller circumference, but the actual depth of the drum is a bit deeper. And then another 13-inch one. So I think today we'll stick with the 13-inch, the first 13-inch one. I like the sound of that. We also recorded each drum using 3 different sticks. So we've got the hot rod, which is like a bundle of smaller sticks together. Then we've got the tipper, which is your traditional stick for hitting the bodhran. And then we've got the brush, which gives a lighter sound. It's, in a way, I think it sounds a bit more muffled, and you get a bit of that sort of brush scraping sound in there as well occasionally. So a nice variety in the 3 types of sticks. Over on the left here we have velocity scaling. So the x-axis is your input velocity, the y-axis is the output velocity, the velocity that the instrument is going to respond to. So if you do this, for example, no matter what velocity you play at, it's going to trigger the highest velocity samples. So you can play around with that. Get it to where you like it. I'm going to leave it round about there. So I'm just right clicking and dragging up and down to change the curve. You can also do that using your scroll wheel. Down below we have the HDSR, and we can adjust the attack, the hold, the decay, the sustain, and the release. And in addition to these knobs down here, as a new feature for Rhapsody, we can actually click and drag on the little graph itself. And this gives us control of the attack level. And if I bring the sustain down here, we can bring that down further if we wanted to, so we can control the attack level. We can also control the curve, so we've got decay curve there, and we've also got release curve, and we have attack curve. So you've got a lot more control over the ADSR now. If you want to reset all this, just hold Alt on your keyboard, and then click on the graph, and it will reset. Over on the right hand side we have a mixer, so we recorded each bodhran with 2 microphones positioned at the front of the instrument, so that's the front mic, so that's a stereo channel, and 2 mics at the rear of the instrument, so another stereo channel, and also with a ribbon mic to give it a bit of character, and I think the ribbon mic has quite a bit of warmth to it, so it's nice to play around with this, pull in a bit more ribbon, pull down the other 2 if you like, and just find a mix that suits you. But if you leave these at the default values, you're going to get a nice mix anyway, and a nice stereo spread. Okay, the big drum in the middle, let's talk about that, and we'll talk about the keyboard. So in fact we'll start with the keyboard. So down here, the 3 red keys, these are key switches for switching between the different types of sticks. So you can do that in real time, you can sequence that if you want to change up the sound as your sequence goes along. Then the main part of the keyboard is split into 2 sections. So this lower section here, so C2 up to F3, that's going to be your downstrokes, and C4 up to F5, that's your upstrokes. So it's the same sound, just a different direction of the stick. So downstroke, upstroke. So it's a subtle difference. So when the bodhran musician is playing, they have one hand inside the drum pressed against the drum skin, and they can move it around to achieve different tones. So you get lower tones, higher tones, and you also get a sort of more muted sound, which we call a no tone. So this drum in the middle just gives you a graphic to represent that, and as you go up the keyboard in both sections, you start at the low tones with the hand down here, and you gradually move up until you reach the next C, and then it's the no tones, so those sort of muted sounds. And then finally at the very top we have some rim shots. And that's duplicated in the top section of the keyboard for the upstrokes. So for each of the different tones, we recorded them at 3 dynamic levels. We recorded 6 round robins for each of them, and of course we've got the up and down. So 6 down strokes, 6 up strokes for each one of these at 3 dynamics. So this is really great for creating organic sounding rhythms without it giving off drum machine vibes. So that's enough of that. Let's now get into creating a little loop here. So with Irish music and Celtic music in general, you've got 3 basic rhythms. You've got reels, which are in 4/4, you've got jigs, which are 6/8, and you've got slip jigs, which are 9/8. There are lots of other styles as well, of course, like hornpipes and waltzes, all kinds of things. And of course, you can create whatever kind of rhythms you like to suit your piece of music. So Modern Bodhran actually comes with 22 MIDI loops already created, and we're going to take a look at some of those, but I thought we'd just start off by creating our own from scratch. And I'm just deciding what to do with the UI here. I'm just going to minimize this, I think. Okay, so I'm going to add a new MIDI item here. We'll just do a 1 bar loop for now. We're in 4/4 and we're at 120 BPM. So the way I've set up the keyboard here on the left, you can see I've already marked where the different tones start. So we've got the low tone down. In fact, let me change the view here. There we go. So we've got low tone down, and that's this key, and this key, and then it's the low mid. It has 3 keys, and the high mid, 3 keys, and the high, 3 keys, etc. And then we have the top octave with the upstrokes. Okay, so let's create a simple reel. So I'm going to use step input here, so I don't have to play it in real time. I've got my grid currently set to quarter notes. We're going to change that to 1/8 notes. And the grid is set to straight. So we've got straight 1/8 notes here. Okay, so what we want to do is for every major beat of this is a 4/4 rhythm, so beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, and beat 4, we're going to have a down low tone. So let me play that in. And I want to have a bit more of an accent here, so I'm just going to raise that velocity there. Okay, so that's our starting point. Let me just set up a loop for this as well. Okay, so let's hear that back. So that's our basic beat. Then on the alternate notes, we're going to do the same thing, but we're just going to do it on the up. So we've got our low up here, so I'll just put that in. And these, because they're on the offbeat, these have a lower velocity. They're not as accented. So just alternating there between up, down, up, down, up, down. And if you want to adjust the pitch of them slightly, you can maybe raise a note up like that. And then you get different variations of that low tone. So that's a simple way to vary it. So what we can do now is we can change the grid to a 16th. And then we can start adding extra notes and rim shots and things in these gaps. So what I'm thinking here is I'm going to leave the start. So we're going to have down, up, down. And then here I'm going to actually change this. So I'm going to, for the up here, I'm actually going to add in a no tone. So that would be here. And then we've got to come back down to the down note. So I'm going to replace this up note here, which is a low tone. I'm actually going to move this down. And this is now going to be a down no tone. So we're going up no tone, down no tone. Then we've got to have another upstroke before we come into the down. So I'm just going to do another no tone. Okay, let's hear how that sounds. That sounds a bit too accented for my liking. And then let's just add a rim shot in here just to keep things interesting. We'll add one right here. So that's a very basic 4/4 rhythm, and that's how I always start. I put in the downstrokes on the beat, and then I fill in the rest with whatever I like, really, just to add interest. And I'd probably do this as a 4-bar sequence or an 8-bar sequence, and then I might make a couple of breaks or something to just sort of tag on at the end of phrases. It kind of depends on what melody I'm working with as well. So I try to sculpt the rhythm around the melody rather than just working on it in isolation like this. But we all have different workflows, so just do what works for you. Okay, let's take a look at some of the loops that are included with Modern Bodhran. So Marisa Waite, who is the musician who recorded the samples for this library, she put together a bunch of loops in notation form, and I'll leave a link below this video actually to her website, modernbodhran.com, where she explains how to read this notation. And what you'll find if you go looking for Bodhran notation and Bodhran rhythms and things like that is every player tends to have a slightly different system they use, and they'll use different terminology and stuff like that. So this is Marisa's notation and the system she uses. So I've already converted these over to MIDI, and this is what you get with the library. You get all these different MIDI loops, 22 of them. So we've got some 4/4 rhythms, we've got some 6/8 rhythms, some jigs, and we've got some 7/8 rhythms, and a couple of 9/8 rhythms as well. So let's start by taking a look at a couple of these 4/4 rhythms. So let's hear this with a different stick. Switch to the hot rod. Let's hear the brush. Let's take a look at this one now. Let's try a different bodhran. Let's go for the 16-inch. I like that bass tone. Let's hear the different mics. So here's the rear. Here's the front. Here's the ribbon. Okay, let's take a look at some of the 6/8 rhythms now. So one thing that can be nice to do is add in some triplets. So let's change this down here to triplet. And before, let's have a look. Yeah, so we'll turn this into a little triplet here. So it'll go, see. So it'll go dun 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 before it gets to this note here. So we've got a down here, so we need to add an up. Yeah, let's add it on the high mids. I like that. And then we'll do the down on the high mids. And then it goes back to the up here, so that should work out nicely. I really like using triplets like that. They just add a little bit of extra colour. Let's go to the 14-inch drum. Let's take a listen to this loop. Right, now let's add some of the slip jigs. So these sequences have been left fairly simple so that you can then come in and add the colour and flavour that you want, adding in triplets, rim shots or other little ornaments, wherever you want, just to add a bit of colour, bring them to life. But we've kept them fairly basic so that you just have a good starting point from which to begin. So that's Modern Bodhran. Links below this video. Catch you next time.